Hello. Hello, Darren. Hello, Graham. Yay. How's
Hey,
it,
Tristan.
guys? Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Fantastic. How's your week been going so far?
Hectic, very hectic. Lots of learning, lots of hours in front of the computer, trying to
Hi,
process
Graham.
all the goodies from what. So it's been a full
Learning
week.
filled week.
Yes, a learning full week. Yes, and then trying to apply myself to your tips of the day and the overall weekly theme on dealing with failure. There's been a bit of that this week, getting
Good.
myself nice and confused, but your points helped. They definitely did.
Awesome. Well, I hope today will bring a little bit more clarity as well and just maybe look at, because again, especially when we're learning new things, this feeling of failure comes up a lot. So we want to
Yeah,
learn to be nice and gentle with
very,
ourselves.
very
Um,
regularly.
yes. Well, hopefully we can do some shifty wifting today. Hello, Dina. How are you?
Morning. Great.
Fantastic. I love it. Love the energy. It's Friday, guys. Just gonna check if there's any more peeps joining us. Give it a minute more and then we'll get started. How's everybody doing? Hi, sir. How's it going? I'm just double checking here.
Hey, all good, all good.
Good. When you guys, when I tag the elite to VIP, you guys all get a notification, right? Because you've just changed that setting. Okay, cool. Francisco, welcome. Yay. Let me just see if anybody needs help. How's it? Yay. How are you? There we go. Hello. Nice to see
Hello,
you. How are
hello.
you?
Very well, and you?
Very good. Lovely to see you. Yay.
Lovely
We
to
got
see you
some.
too.
It's gonna be a fun one today. We're gonna do some fun processes. Yay. Okay, let's just give it a second more for all those latecomers. For those of you that are here already, maybe just grab a pen and a piece of paper so that you're all set, ready to go to make some notes. Okay, well, if it's a little group today, it's actually kind of cool because then we can all share and let's see. Hopefully some people will hop on. Okay, guys, well, welcome. Yay, I've got some videos on. Graham, where's your lovely face today? I'm just seeing your cool cat, Pink Panther. He's wearing his pajamas, maybe. Hey, Graham. Cool, guys. Well, welcome to today's Connect. Yay, there we go. Hi, Graham.
Sorry, I'm multitasking. I'm having lunch
All
while I'm
good.
listening.
Perfect. You're welcome. Welcome to today's Connect call. And this week's theme was failure. And it's such a big, huge topic, and there's so many different elements to it. But again, the idea behind the reflection is to just start to engage with how we're showing up with this concept. And I've had some great mind shift sessions privately, and so many of the themes that we're going to be looking at today have already started coming up. You know, maybe when we feel that sense of failure, it's illogical. It doesn't really make sense. It's like, oh, well, I'm trading, right? You're going to win, you're going to lose. That's a fact. But yet the body still reacts. The body still has this horrible response. Okay. And that's what we're looking at today from a mindset perspective is we're going to fail. How we fail, how we feel about failing, those are areas that we have a little bit of control with. Okay. So let's get started. Because we're a small group today, I really want to allow this to be super interactive. This is your space to practice being a little vulnerable, maybe practice sharing, getting a little bit uncomfortable. All of these things help us to expand ourselves. Welcome to the new peeps. Welcome. Yay! How's everybody doing?
Good, thank you.
Gary.
Hi.
Good. Well, welcome. Hi. We actually have one of Seth's paintings in the background for the person who asked last time. Okay, so did you all get the hello? Did you all get the questions in the library? Did you have a look? Does anybody want to share? So when we think of failure, again, a lot of this comes from our foundational years. So those first 7 years, this is subconscious programming, right? And, you know, maybe mom was overly cautious and she would say, be careful all the time. And so we would kind of have that stop start. My body wants to climb the tree. I want to have fun. I trust myself as a child, right? Because we don't really know the dangers of the world so much. So I have this trust, this innate trust in myself, but then a caregiver or somebody sends messages, or maybe I fall and I really hurt myself, right? Oh, we got some more peeps coming in. Yay. Okay, give it a sec. Woohoo! Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome. Hey, Big T. What's up? Okay. Awesome. Yay, you're with me. So for those of you that are landing in the space, welcome. Hi. So we're just talking about how the feeling of failure, because again, from a logical perspective, as traders, we know the risk. We're going in, we know we're going to lose. We're just trying to mitigate that. But that feeling, the very body reaction to failure, that's what we're going to be exploring from a mindset perspective today. So those first 7 years, we got a lot of messages about failure, about our ability, right? Or perhaps maybe we did try and climb the tree and we fell and we broke our leg. That gets stored in our body memory bank. So now I try something new and my body reacts. Even though my mind's like, yes, I can do this. I want to do this. I'm excited to do it. My body is having maybe hesitation. It's kind of being on the back foot. Or maybe I go in and then I fall again, and that's what I'm repeating. I'm repeating the pain. Okay, so who would like to share just some of your thought processes came up if you did manage to answer these questions or at least reflect upon them? The first question here is, what is your personal definition to failure? And we might have a nice quote that we're like, yeah, you know, like you saw, you know, failure is only feedback. I want us to get a little bit honest and a little bit raw with ourselves. Okay, because the definition that we hold on a subconscious level is going to be different to the affirmation that we're trying to build. But we want congruency. We want our subconscious mind to be working for us, not against us. So what do you think that your personal definition, and this could be messages maybe you received from your parents, so don't take risks, you're going to get hurt, or you have to do your best, you know, you have to come home with an A card. If you don't, you know, don't show me your report card if it's less than an A. What are some of the messages that you received? Who wants to go? Who's going to be brave? Take yourself off mute and share.
From my side, Tristan, like you say, it comes from those definitive early years. I come from a family, a middle class family, that both parents started working very, very young, not in a position to go to school from a financial perspective. So their understanding, and still is to my mom, is that it's a struggle, you need to strive for it, and failure is really, you don't really learn from failure. Failure is a sort of I'm just struggling to find the correct words without trying to sound too dramatic.
No, well, be unfiltered.
Failure is part of the process, but you shouldn't really expect to get anything positive out of it. It's part of life. It is what it is. You need to take it on the chin and not so much learn from it, just accept it for what it is. And it's uncomfortable, and it's part of life, and it's a struggle and a strive, and that's that. So that's the way I came to accept and understand failure, and it's obviously counterintuitive when you are in a training environment. When you exchange your time for other people's money, then maybe that can work. But when you're working for yourself in the environment we do, failure must be an opportunity. It cannot be anything else, because if you fall off the horse with that attitude, you're never going to get back on it.
How do you think that sort of foundational philosophy, if you will, has shown up for you in the way that you feel about failure? So even though you've gone in a different track and you're learning to see failure as an opportunity, what do you think the implications are of, like, in your body, that idea of, you know, you're going to fail, but you shouldn't? How do you think that shows up for you?
In earlier parts of my life, when I was exchanging my time for other people's money, it was sickening. It was physically so disappointing. Maybe that's the right word. That the feelings, the anxiety, the anxiousness, the outright disappointment, and immediately just turbocharge that self-critic, saying, well, you shouldn't have really tried that, because look, you failed. So get back in your comfort zone, do what you know is best, what you're comfortable with, and just don't try anything else. Just leave it be.
So that feeling of disappointment, and then that loud inner critic, which is what we're going to work on today. So
look, hand in hand.
We're gonna work on that little guy, turn him into somebody nice. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that, because that, again, it shows how much progress you've made in terms of wanting to have a different relationship to failure. But that subconscious programming is the body's reaction. So that's what we want to really get honest and curious about, is if my body's feeling disappointed and like, oh, damn, I need to shrink, I shouldn't have done that, pull back, even though my logical mind has placed me in an environment, you've chosen trading, right? We want to be able to have those things work synergistically. Amazing. Who else would like to share?
I could probably add, like, I think the childhood is certainly in everyone's probably mind, you know, like it goes back to that place where, for me personally, I think the failure feeling, or that word, started making some thought pattern in my head was from probably being laughed at for doing something wrong. And, you know, let's say that particular scenario, like, well, those particular situations where you do something against the social norm, let's say, and, you know, you feel like you're not fitting in, you're different, you're outside of the norm, and that when that happens, you question yourself, you know, whether you're right or wrong, and what's right, what's wrong. So when you're outside of your sort of values, what you value, actually, what is the norm, you're trying to fit in. And if you're not fitting in, you're outside of the norm naturally, right?
Absolutely.
It's kind of yeah. So you suddenly, when you fail, you feel like, oh, what would others
show up for you?
How does that show up?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting one. It's probably like you want to hide. You want to probably just hide and not show up. You know, it's like this vulnerability aspect, I suppose. You're afraid to be vulnerable because, you know, if you failed now, well, you failed now. Even now, I'm saying that you failed. Like, who said you failed? Like, is it a failure really? You know, who said it's a failure? Like, who defined it? Like, so, but you feel it's a failure because it's what socially is acceptable to call that a failure, right? So if you're not feeling that you're socially accepted now because what you've done, you're falling outside of that norm. And so what you do is then, as soon as you do something that what you call a failure, like, you want to hide, and you want to hide and not be seen. So that hiding is what then causes the stress, causes the anxiety. It brings up, I don't know, the knotty feeling in the stomach, you know, and yeah, I think that's how it shows up.
So wonderfully articulated, and you've really touched on a core theme that we're going to be looking at today. The development of the inner critic is the mechanism that tries to keep us in a safe space in terms of our society. So if we think about from a tribal perspective back in the day, we would have been kicked out. If we did something, you ate something different, you wore something different, you'd be kicked out. So it means death. And so our primal brains still have that reaction. We're like, no, got to stay in the lane, got to stay in my lane, because it's sense of belonging, connection, safety, survival. And so even though we like to be different, right? We want to go outside the social norms. We kind of have that rebellious streak. Our bodies still experience that feeling of I need to hide, I shouldn't do this, oh, eek, anxiety, knot in my stomach, instead of feeling like, well, yes, it's different to the values of society, but I can live by my own value system, which is really what we're wanting to start to shift our mind, and then getting our bodies on board with that. Because that's the thing,
Yeah.
is like your body's like, no, your brain's like, yes, let's be as different as possible. Let's make money in different ways. Let's not do the 9 to 5, like all these things. But then there's a conflict. Thank you so much for
Well,
sharing.
even sharing now, I feel my vulnerability here, you know,
Yes.
like being exposed, and that's what brings the same feeling, similar to the failure as well. It's like being vulnerable in front of others, you know. So yeah. Okay.
Well,
Cheers.
big everybody, a big clap over here. Big T, thank you. That's what it's all about, right? Is every single time we do something uncomfortable, we're teaching the body, hey, that was uncomfortable and I did it anyway. And so that anxiety, because the anxiety actually amplifies when there's that hesitation. So if you just sat quietly and you observed, that anxiety would have built, and then if I'd called on you, it would have been more intense. And then next time, the same feeling. So the brain actually goes, oh, no, it's safer to keep quiet. Whereas what you've just done right now is you said, you know what? This is uncomfortable. This was really vulnerable. I feel exposed and I did it anyway. You're teaching your brain that it's actually safer to share than it is to not. So well done. That was a perfect example. Yay. Thank you so much. Who else would like to share just on some of these reflections? If you hadn't, I know you guys have all had a very busy week. So while you're listening to everybody else, maybe make some notes from what's on the screen here. So your personal definition of failure, not your beautiful Pinterest quote, your personal, your family value. Okay, this is a messaging you received from your family about failure. And then what are some memories that come up for you? What are the sensations? So like Big T was saying, that kind of dropping, that knot in your stomach, that anxiety, right? That's such a visceral response. Or like Darren was saying, disappointed, like the whole body kind of just wants to shrink in. Who else would like to share? Let's have one more before we move on. Who else is feeling brave to be vulnerable? Everyone's so silent. Come on, guys. Who wants to go? Should I pick on somebody? I hate picking on people. Okay. Sir, let's go. Yes.
Sure. Personal definition of a failure. I guess it's like I feel like I'm a total idiot. Like you're dumb, or you're a fool, or you know you have let someone else down, or something like that. I guess that's how I relate failure. I guess it's about the one thing that is maybe slightly in topic and off topic, but it's about, you know, listening to others and, you know, taking their advice and doing exactly that, and then realizing afterwards that that was a wrong call. Like, you shouldn't do that. So I'm not saying that other people are idiots, but but situations, you know, they might be totally different, that, you know, they're looking it from a different perspective. So if I bring it to the, let's say, the trading concept, that let's say that you would watch YouTube video in the morning and someone is saying that, hey, it's, you know, it's gonna, you know, pump, and it's gonna go up, and then you're like, oh shit, that I have to take, you know, long positions only. But even though that person might be kind of looking it from, you know, 1 or 2 months perspective, that, you know, it is probably gonna rise. But it's like, if you're looking at it from a totally different perspective, that you're looking at only from, you know, today, it's gonna go down. So that might kind of impact your how are you gonna act today. So what I've been trying to do is, you know, stop watching any YouTube videos, and, you know, be more like not listening to others, but you cannot only kind of focus it into the trading, but you have to bring it to your own life as well. So I've been also trying to, you know, I've kind of gone from being the one who is listening others only, and, you know, being kind of somewhat kind of underestimating myself, to being more or less like, hey, I don't give a fuck like what's your opinion or how you see it. Like, this is how I want to do it, and this is how I'm gonna do it. And maybe it's not the right decision from your point of view, but I don't really care. But that's something that I'm still working on. So happy to receive some good advices on that.
That's amazing. Well, one of the two themes that we'll be looking in the next couple of weeks is both trust and intuition, because exactly what you said there is, and this is again an interesting little brain glitch, right? Is if I take someone else's advice and go with that and I fail, I get to blame them. I get to be like, oh, it was your stupidity, instead of the pain of feeling like I listened to myself and I let myself down. So it's quite an interesting thing that you've raised there, right? So understanding that, yes, we want to be able to take advice and take things on board, but it needs to come through what's relevant to you, to your life in this current moment. And then at the end of the day, and this is where we kind of have to get a little bit accountable, a little bit honest with ourselves, not critical, just honest with, that was my choice. I chose to do that. I chose to get in there. I chose to get out there. I chose to react in that way. And when we recognize that we're choosing, it actually brings back our power. So amazing points there. And we're definitely going to we're going to zoom in more into that intuition and the trust, because those are other elements of the failure. Thank you so much.
So I guess it's like shifting responsibility. So if you kind of like listen to others, it's easier than listening to yourself.
Yeah, a lot of times. And we don't even realize we're doing that, right? It's kind of like we take on what the other person is saying, even though maybe the gut, the body is having and saying, no, this isn't good for me. I shouldn't do this. The brain, in cases where we don't want to fail, we don't want to be wrong, is maybe more likely to do that, because then we get to shift blame. And think about that, you know, and we do this in relationships, we project, because it is less painful to point a finger than it is to be like, fuck, I stuffed up. That was me. That's on me. Like,
those that have kids, I think, do that a lot
yes!
with kids.
Oh my gosh, all the time. And they are such potent little mirrors as well. They just like throw it straight back at
It's
you. It's
much easier to blame the kids than
of course,
yourself.
it's you. Of course. And they are mirroring you. They are the most direct mirrors. So like the behavior that you're not enjoying over there, big lesson. Absolutely. Cool, guys. So looking at failure again, we're wanting to be honest about our coding, like really the core foundational coding. So if you haven't already, please do take some time with these questions and see what memories come up. You know, maybe you hear your dad's voice in your head saying, this is not good enough, you need to do better. Or, you know, a teacher saying you're stupid. Or all of this stuff is so relevant to now engage with this part in a different way versus just letting it run in the background. Okay, so let us, oopsie. Okay, so failure as a whole, right? We don't understand how things are falling into place. You know, sometimes we think we can see the bigger picture, but actually every single failure or attempted failure, you know, the example of kids, they will fall. When they learn to walk, they're going to fall. And instead of us judging those failures, right, those falls, we encourage them. And imagine if we could do the same thing with our own failures, recognizing that we obviously want to pivot. We don't want to repeat the same mistakes. We don't want to fail in the same way, because we want to grow and evolve. But every single one of our perceived failures have taught us, have expanded us. Okay, so just something to really remember. Okay, we're going to go into a little guided process. So I'm going to invite you to just close your eyes for a moment. Again, another point of vulnerability for a lot of people is closing their eyes. So sometimes it's the speaking and standing out, and then other times it's that feeling of like, oh, I can't watch people watching me. So let's just take a moment here together. Just take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. I want you to bring your awareness to the top of your head, and we're just going to do a light scan through the body. So noticing any tightness and tension, And just using your breath to relax, relax, relax. So moving down behind the eyes, just noticing if those eye muscles are a little bit strained, staring at the screen. Just giving them permission to relax.
Maddie, you
Dropping
gonna
into the
get
jaw. Ooh, there we go. Okay, dropping down into the jaw, relaxing that jaw, the back of the neck, the tops of the shoulders, and just using your breath to give permission to that part to just soften, relax, relax. Dropping down the spine, dropping over the chest, and just acknowledging for a moment there any feelings, any sensations. Dropping down into the belly, softening, relaxing, into the hips, and then all the way down to the soles of the feet, giving them toes a little wiggle. Hello, toes. Just landing in this moment. Take another nice deep breath in. Exhaling out. I'd like you now, in your mind's eye, to see a screen in front of you. And on the screen, your superconscious mind will provide you with an image, as if it was a little character, of your inner critic. So that voice that you believe is your voice or you, I'd like you to just project it onto that screen for a moment and just ask yourself some questions here. Is it a masculine energy? Is it feminine? Is it neutral? Is it a big energy, a small energy? What is it wearing? What does it look like? Just allowing your visualization process to paint a picture. If we were to give shape, form, color, texture to this inner critic that so often runs our lives, here's a moment for it to be center stage. We'll take a moment, etching it, getting it nice and clear. What's it wearing? How's it looking? And now I want us to turn up the volume on that voice, the voice we try desperately to ignore, or it takes over our mind. So I just want you to turn up the volume for a moment. Notice its tone of voice. What does it love to say to you? You're an idiot. You're stupid. Can't believe you did that. Just notice its favorite line, the line that you can recognize it by. And just allowing that voice to get a little bit louder, just so you can observe, knowing you're safe. You're just observing. Just take a moment. Feel what you feel in relation to this energy. Do you want to shrink away? Do you want to fight it and squash it? Do you want to cry? You want to sigh? Just notice, we're just being curious. Just allowing it to take full shape, full form. And as you observe this character, you might find it a bit familiar. Maybe it's represented by somebody you know, somebody you have felt criticized by, or maybe it's a completely unique little character, like a cartoon character. However you see it is correct. Just allowing yourself to go with that now. And in a moment, as you start to recognize that you observing this character, who is the you observing the character? You're not that inner critic. It is not you. It is an aspect of you. So from your perspective now, I would like you to interact with this inner critic. Ask it some questions. Let's get curious here for a moment. What do you want? What do you need? What are you trying to do? What is your function, your purpose here? And we're going to take a minute. I'm going to be quiet for a few moments. What does it need from you? Welcome, Marcel. Just take a minute to join us. We're visualizing our inner critic. We're allowing it to see just in the theater of our mind, what it looks like, the form that it takes, what it's wearing, whose voice it is. Hello, Niels, welcome. It's just really getting very creative in your mind's eye, visualizing that inner critic.
Yeah,
Hello,
thank you.
welcome.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Matthew, welcome. So just take a moment, join us, close your eyes. We're just doing a little visualization. Seeing your own inner critic. What does it look like? How does it move? What's its tone of voice? How does it make you feel in its presence? Does it make you want to shrink or fight? Do you recognize this character? Is it new to you? And just observing that you are not this character. If you can observe it, then there's another part, right? So just listen back for a moment. When we ask those questions, what do you need? What do you want? How can I relate to you better in a way that we can have a synergistic, symbiotic relationship? I understand that your function is protection, but can we work together in a different way? And just listen. What feedback does it give you? What does it say? Just notice, maybe it's a little stubborn, so give it some time. And we're just going to take a nice minute here together. Just using your breath to center in, keeping your eyes closed to bring your awareness into that theater of your mind. Maybe you have a little chuckle to yourself. Maybe you feel a bit sad that you guys have been in such conflict for such a long time. Drop the judgment. Just drop any judgment. I'm going to take a few more deep breaths here. Just gathering as much information, knowing that you will remember all of these little interactions, be able to take notes on just now. Just really letting yourself have the experience. So just finally asking it. So now that you can actually recognize how it shows up and you see this little character, just ask sort of in final words, how can I connect with you better? Or how can I listen to you? The underlying message. How can you communicate with me in a better way? Because the way that you have been communicating with me makes me shrink, makes me want to hide, makes me feel disappointed and scared. Just let it know that it's a sort of compromise that's got to happen here. You want to listen, but how do you need to be spoken to? What can shift here? Just take a moment with that. That's right. Well done. A lot of times it's just challenging to even engage with this part. So it's taking a lot of courage right now, a lot of vulnerability. Well done. Just going to take half a minute more here, just gathering all the info. When you're ready, just thanking it for showing up today in this way. Welcome, Sebastian. And very gently, very slowly, just rolling your ankles, your wrists, your shoulders, your neck, just bringing yourself back into the room. Feel the seat that you're sitting on. Just gently opening your heart, your mind, And in your own time, very gently, your eyes, and just look around the room that may be very familiar to you. And just notice if maybe it looks a little brighter, a little lighter. And just take a moment to take down some notes if you'd like. Just jot down some things that you saw, that you felt. And anybody who would like to share their little character, I'd love to hear, and I'm sure everybody else would. So I'll go first. I'll practice my vulnerability. So I don't know if I have mentioned this already, but I'm highly dyslexic. And growing up, you know, obviously everybody says you're stupid. I'm a genius. I just can't spell. And so that inner voice was my teacher's voices of going, I've taught you this before. Are you stupid or something? Like that was so loud and it was absolutely crippling. I literally would have a panic attack. The idea of doing anything like this would completely spin me out. I'd feel that knot in my stomach. I'd hyperventilate. And the first time I did a process like this, I really got very deep with that inner critic. And I was like, you are hurting me. Like I am in pain. I am self-limiting right now. And so we came to a compromise and we renamed it my quality control manager. And so what he does, he's a masculine energy. He's quite formal and he's quite direct. So sometimes he's not so, I'm quite flowery and I like to use elaborate words and soften things. He's like, hey, you fucked up on the spelling there. Like, let's double check that, okay? And what I've learned is instead of taking his voice as a critique, I recognize his function. I'm like, thanks. I will double check my spelling. Fabulous. Before I send out that email. And so we've really developed this very synergistic relationship. And I must say that like now he's a buddy. Like I really, his commentary, because a lot of times it's useful. Remember, your inner critic is trying to help you survive. It's useful information. It's important information, right? So we don't want to ignore it, dismiss it. We want to be able to listen without all of the body sensations that and the freak out and the failure that happens with it. Okay, so there's my little story. Who would like to share just a little, maybe, you know, how you saw it? Did you recognize it? Was it maybe sometimes it comes as like a mom or a dad figure? Who would like to share? Who's feeling brave?
I mean,
sure.
okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go for it.
No.
Dana?
Actually, I do energy healing, so I've been working at this a long time with still limited success. But I saw a little devil with red horns and a big pointed fork, and the emotions I get was, and I've dealt with this for a long time, you're worthless and you're stupid. And when I ask, why are you doing this? It's like he's prodding me continually with that fork. So I'll turn around and say no, acknowledge that I'm not, and release those emotions. So that's what I'm getting. So hopefully that did it this time.
How did it feel just having that moment with it? Like really sort of seeing it very viscerally? Was there a conclusion or a way in which it can show up? Because that's kind of a scary image, right? So obviously when it comes up and we have that feeling, we're not really going to want to be so comfortable with it. So how did you feel? Yeah, just kind of having a shape, having a form. What shifted there for you?
I saw it more as a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Because I try to connect with my inner self all the time, but this is the first time this little guy came up, so it was okay.
Okay, so maybe working with him, and what happens over time, which is quite interesting when you revisit this process, is it starts to transform. So also the first time I did it was this big shadowy figure pointing a finger at me. And every time just having that there, because again, this is subconscious. So that little devil with a fork, subconsciously, your metaphor is there. And so we're going to have a certain relationship because that's a scary energy. So as we revisit and we start to communicate with it, you'll notice that every time you go back and do this, it starts to adapt slightly. So like mine's quite like formal guy in a suit now. He's like, you know, he's formal, but he's approachable and he's fun. And so definitely revisit that. And please let me know if it starts to shift the character starts to shift to something that maybe feels a little bit more loving and kind. Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing. Henry, go for it.
Sure. So I couldn't visualize really the voice in my head, but I was able to capture the voice in my head, which is quite fun. But what I was just wondering that why is it, if let's call it an ego, so why is it often so negative and fearful? Is it somehow related to our survival instinct, or?
Yeah. So a lot of the science says that it's related to, think about, you don't have time to be nice and kind if there's a grizzly bear behind you, right? If there's a grizzly, I'm going to go like, get out of the way. And I'm going to be intense and I'm going to be very direct. So when we think about that part, it is primal. And so it's going to do whatever it needs to do to keep you safe. So if it's saying you suck, you're a loser, you're not lovable, you're unworthy, all of these things, it's not intending to have that effect. There's a deeper message that it's trying to relay, which is, hey, what you're doing right now might get you expelled from the tribe. Hey, what you're doing right now will affect your direct survival. Hey, you could lose all your money. There's an undercurrent of what's being said, and our brain is interpreting it with all of these little belief constructs we have as, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, and we're then having the body response. But its core intention isn't to be that mean. It is just very direct. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It totally does, and it's
Awesome.
just an interesting kind of
Yeah.
reflection of catching yourself thinking, because then you kind of take yourself apart, like you have two, like sort of like two persons, or you have your ego and have your person. Yeah, and if you think about it even a little bit deeper, that if you see someone walking in the street and talking by themselves, you're like, oh man, that's a crazy person. But to be honest, everyone actually has a voice in their head, but it's
sometimes
just that you actually,
everyone has
that you catch it.
Multiple personality disorder.
We do. We all do. Exactly. We just like a little bit more shy about us, and we don't like go and tell our, psychiatrist that we're speaking to all these people and feeling terrible about ourselves. But we do. We all have, and we're also going to look at there's other characters as well we'll also look at, but this one really does a lot of damage, especially in trading, right? Absolutely. Maddie's saying that imposter syndrome, where it's saying to you, you're a fraud. Look at you, you're pretending. They're going to see. Again, listen to the deeper message. The deeper message is stay safe. Stay, connected. Because if somebody then sees, you'll get kicked out, you'll get rejected. That's why that feeling comes up. Okay. Anybody else want to share their little character that they saw?
I can just chip in quickly. Like last time I mentioned about perfection being the issue, and it's the same character. It's my mom's character who's always been trying to be perfect, and I could hear myself as well speaking those same words to myself all the time when I'm kind of failing or not managing to do it better, than I was expecting to do it well. I didn't do it that well. I'm kind of ashamed of myself, I'm like saying to myself, almost, I'm hearing the words of like, how on earth did you do that way? Like, why did you not do this other way? Why did you pick that route? Like, you're always, you need to be perfect. And that's it's not necessarily the way my mom used to say, but my mom was always trying to kind of show this is a better way, that's the better way, but everybody has their own way, and I would be taking that in and taking that as my own, as I always have to be finding that best way, like I can't relax. I need to find that best way. And that can't relax thing is pushing me forward, to be honest, but it doesn't give me the break. So what I'm hearing from that inner critic is that inner critic is really wanting a break. Like my mom wanted a break and she'd never had a break. So she wanted me to be that better self or better her, I can see that, like, I can't relax. I need to push forward. I need to keep going. I need to make that extra step, extra mile. And I realize I have a breakdown then, right? So when I hear that inner critic shouting on me or like not being happy with me, I'm hearing that the inner critic lacks love, lacks that break, like in pressure, in tension, like because where is that tension coming from? It's never ending. It's like it's always going, keep going. Like get a break, just relax. It's like that's what I'm hearing.
What you just said there was so interesting. So then that feeling will lead to a breakdown, right? Whether it be anxiety, whether it be kind of an emotional turmoil. And in a way, your body's giving you what you want, which is a break, right? Not a breakdown, but we are getting
Exactly.
a release. There's a release
I
of
will
energy.
run myself down so I can
Yeah.
get sick for
Rest.
3 days in bed. I relax, I rest, and then I come back and I do it again. And it's just
Yes.
like this vicious cycle. But even if I notice I need a rest, I need a break, I'm sitting here like chatting or like looking at the charts trading at 3 a.m. at night, and I'm like, no, I still need to do this. I still need to do that. Take the charts, take whatever else work, if I go in, I'm all in and I need to finish perfectly well. And when I break down, or I get that break, I rest and then go back again. So where do I stop there, and how do I stop?
So firstly, understanding that cycle, right? So what you were saying about that being mom's voice, remember those first 7 years, we are a sponge. We have no filter. And the inner critic actually only really develops, so that voice only really develops around the age of between 6 and 7. And the reason for that is the first couple of years, we're just in hypnosis. We are a sponge. We're absorbing mom, dad, everybody's voices around us, the TV, everything we're exposed to is going in without a filter. Then around 7, we start to go, wait a second. You're different to me. Look, she's got different hair to me. He's got a different lunchbox to me. And we start to create these comparisons. And then a lot of that noise starts to actually come up, but we only really feel it as we grow, right? That difference, the separation. And think about that part is always trying to give you what you need. So if you've never given yourself another way to take a break besides having a breakdown, it's working perfectly. It's working perfectly to give you what you need, right? But then as soon as we bring that into the conscious mind and we go, wow, okay, so my medicine is to learning to take rest. And the more I'm actually able to take short breaks, I'm going to come back without so much shit that I have to clear, so much noise I have to clear. I'm not fighting through things. I'm going, okay, and I'm working with it. So a little interesting activity there for you would be like, okay, cool. So how, instead of maybe I notice the inner critic coming in, and then I go, what's one small act of kindness that I can do? Is it maybe just to walk around, drink a glass of water, and just notice what happens? You probably won't have to lead to the breakdown because that's a sequence of events. I don't rest, I break down. Now I'm sick for 3 days. I can't do anything. Remember, the subconscious mind is always working for you. We just want it to be working for us, not against us. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else? One more little character. Such a fun part to hear everybody's characters. Who wants to go? It's weird. We've got like a 3-person max, and then people feel shy. It's interesting. Come on, guys. What did you see? I know for some people, visualization in itself is quite hard, like actual visualizing. And again, it's a muscle. We practice it. But anything, even we got maybe like a sense or a voice. Francisco, you look like you had some experience. I want to hear what it was.
Yeah, at the beginning it was hard to visualize the little man, because in the end I sort of managed, and it was more sort of a cartoon character, very thin, a bit goofy. And the words that he was saying to me was like, you can do it, you did it again, it's wrong, that sort of thing, that negativity. But through the years I've been working on it, because I noticed that voice, and I try to embrace it, to be honest. I don't see it in a negative way, even though it creates negative emotions in me, because obviously normally it comes up when you do something wrong. But I'm sort of grateful, because in parts of my life it has helped me to become better, to try to push a bit harder. in other parts of my life is he criticized too much, and I know it's myself, and sometimes I'm very tough with myself. I'm very critical, and I can be, even, I don't know, very aggressive with myself. And then obviously that's at the moment. And then later on, I sort of think about it. I meditate quite a bit during the week. So it's one thing that I do normally, and that helps me a lot. It has helped me through the years now. But yeah, I mean, you have those loops of behavior that are very difficult to break down. But the more I'm aware of, the easier it becomes to deal with that inner voice and try to extract something positive out of it. But
Absolutely.
it's still, work in progress.
Of
As
course.
everybody else, everybody has their
it
own
always will.
demons.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And even just what you were saying there, we can't actually break the way that we are relating to something, right? Because if you think about our neurons, they're always connecting. So what this process helps to do is we're changing the association, right? Is if we can start to understand that inner critic has a function. So yes, it's going to not feel good in our bodies, right? It's going to feel tough. It's going to feel hard. Maybe we're going to be quite negative and angry, right? When we start to recognize it as another part as opposed to ourselves, because that's what happens. We take it so personally. We're like, this is me. It's not. Through meditation, you start to observe it. You're like, oh, I'm the observer. I'm the one observing things. This is not me fundamentally. We can actually start to switch it out versus break it, which is a lot of times what we do with it. We want to push that voice away, or we believe it. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create another option which goes, I hear you, I accept you, I honor you, let's relate differently. And every time we have a different interaction, we have new associations. Yeah? Awesome. Okay. So, oh gosh, wait, I went back one. Oopsie. Okay, so let's look at this for a second. The inner critic. So for those of you that maybe found it a little bit challenging to recognize the voice, a lot of times we've maybe over-identified with this part. So we can't even, we can't even tell that it's a separate idea, okay? So think of it like this. The inner critic is very black and white thinking. It's like, this is good and bad. It's very dualistic, right? We want to start to move to the paradox. It's this and that, right? We're the meaning makers. So the inner coach, you can call it whatever you want. This is just a working title. So the inner coach, inner guide, quality control manager. Be playful with how you'd like to call it. Because again, think about it. If we're calling it a critic, what are we inducing? Criticism. So even changing its name and its roles and its responsibilities, we're going to relate to it differently. Yeah. So the inner critic will focus only on the problem. We want to be able to be a little bit more solution-based, right? It's focusing more on the progress. It's not focusing on the progress. It's focusing on winning or losing. Yeah. As opposed to understanding that it's all these small steps and that we win a lot of times. And then we highlight when we lose because it's painful, right? Guilt to motivate us, right? Or even okay, oopsie, there we go. Okay, so it seems to be the voice of reason, and this is the hard part, because often that inner critic is so logical and so clever that we think like, oh yes, this must be true because it sounds like reason. But actually, that inner coach, that inner guide, when we start to work with it, it wants you to evolve. It wants you to do better. It wants you to grow. It wants you to be a better version. It's a cheerleader. Yes, you can do this, right? So we want to understand that that voice of reason is sometimes more that kind of critical voice. And then the inner critic focuses on lack, scarcity, never enoughness, whereas the inner coach guide focuses more on gratitude. Okay, and evolution and growth. So for you, for some play work, right, we want to map that out a little bit. Okay, actually, really start to think about what's the name that you'd like to give it. Like, give it a name, give it a form. Now you've got a little bit of a form for it. Give it a name, give it a function. What do you want it to do for you? Put it to work. It will work for you, because that's its mechanism. Its whole mechanism is to keep you safe, but it's up to you to start to edit what safe means, right? Safe isn't shrinking and being small when I need to make bold decisions. It's not actually safer to stay in my comfort zone, right? Because then I can't grow or evolve. Okay, so lastly, we're just going to look at some tips, right, to start to work with this aspect of ourselves. Oops. What is going on with this little thing today? Okay, so firstly, and I think that this is the hardest part, is accept the feeling. So it only takes about 90 seconds to move a feeling through the body. Anger takes a little bit longer. We'll deal with that in a later stage. But sitting with the sensation. So let's take Darren's disappointment for a moment. We might experience that as a shrinking in the shoulders. Our stomach feels like it's dropping. Maybe we get a lump in our throat. If we can accept that in this moment, without the label, right? Oh, I'm so disappointed in myself. Boom, now I'm in the story. Now that inner critic is just lambasting me. No. Where in my body do I feel disappointment? Oh, I feel it in my stomach. How big, how small is it? Is it still, is it moving? If you stay with the sensation itself, it will transform, and it will blow your mind how quickly it can transform if we can just sit with it. But like I said, that's the hardest part, because we tend to want to avoid negative emotions. We want to push them away, again, because we believe that they are creating some kind of definitiveness about us. Feelings are not facts. They're not facts. Because you feel disappointed doesn't mean you're disappointing, right? Because you feel failure doesn't mean you are a failure. They're not facts. They're just feelings, okay? The second big tip here is stop taking it so damn personally. You can take it in, right? And go, yes, I can do better. It's true. I can do better. From a little bit more of an abstract perspective, I kind of see it as that feeling of not enough, which we all have as humans, which is quite funny, right? We all have it. I'm not enough. We have it to varying degrees. But if we think about from maybe a cosmic perspective, all that is experiencing all that it can be, of course we don't feel enough, because we're evolving. We can always be more, right? So just recognizing that feeling, we don't have to take it personally. It's an invitation to do more, to be better, to learn more, to grow. These things are true, but interpreting it as like you're a failure, you can't learn, you can't do that, actually pulls away. Okay, reframing that failure, understanding that it is, and this takes some work, and that's why I said I want you to get honest about what your foundation is. What's the nonsense, the bullshit that you were given, so that we can reframe it, because if that's hidden, it's harder to catch. So really bring that to the light, spend some time with that. Treating our losses as feedback, not defeat. It's feedback. Okay, yeah, that was a shitty trade. I shouldn't have gotten out when I did. Okay, what can I do better? What can I do better? And allowing that to almost be the instruction. So tell me, inner critic, what can I do better? Instead of focusing on the problem, what you did to stuff up, focusing on the mistake. Look for evidence of progress. Because again, if you have a bank of evidence of actually how many times you've overcome something, when that feeling kicks in and you're like, yeah, I hear you, and here's some other data. Let's just bring this into perspective for a moment, okay? Using that inner coach, or whatever you call it, give it a name. I want to hear these names. Instead of the inner critic, you're going to have a completely different relationship. This one, focusing rather on our values, what's important to us versus the goals. So on Monday's webinar, we're going to be looking at ditching our goals, firstly understanding what they are, what the why is, and then moving to process and to habit. Because a lot of times our failure comes from, here's this big lofty goal, and we forget that we don't climb a ladder from here to here. We climb rung by rung. And so if we put systems and habits and process in place, success is inevitable. And it's not then focused on time frame, goal, when I'm going to achieve it, and all of those things. So that's something we'll look at on Monday's webinar. So do show up for that if you can. And then lastly, always refine your strategies, right? Learn, we spoke about last week, adaptability. Adapt. If it's not working, change it. Okay. So for you guys, what are some of your takeaways from today? I'd love to hear as we round off. We've got about, I can stay on for a couple more minutes if people just want to ask questions and share. But what are some of your big takeaways from today? Like, what are the things that will stick with you that you want to start to practice, you want to start to implement? Who would like to share? Darren.
I think from my side, it's changed the conversation.
Love it. Change
Let's
the
change the
conversation.
conversation.
Go for it.
That's it.
Yes. Okay, well, I'm really excited to see. And the first step with that is give it a different name so you can start to recognize it. Whereas before you were over-identifying with it. It was me. No, it's the inner critic, but let's give it a better name, right? And we can start to change that conversation little bit by little bit. We're going to fail. It's going to be imperfect, but little bit by little bit. Amazing. Thank you. Francisco.
For me, it would be failure is part of the process.
Love it.
You know, it's inevitable. Just grow. Take the opportunity to focus in what you did wrong and try to build from there.
Perfect. Thank you. Love it. Who haven't I heard from? Graham, what's your big takeaway from today? Pop yourself off mute. Can't hear you. There we go. Yay.
I pretty much side with Darren in terms of just change the topic or change the way you look at it, change the conversation.
Amazing.
That's for me the biggest takeaway.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Mama, are you with us? I don't see your video, but
I am with you.
there we go. Yay. Hi.
My takeaway for this is that I think I'm a bit too tough on myself. So I know what I'm doing. I know that I'm critiquing too much, but it sticks with me for too long. That's where I struggle to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
That failure. But so the takeaway is to rather just talk myself out of it, I suppose.
Or to talk to that part, right? Of being like, hey, you're being really hard on me. It's hard for me to understand. It's kind of like in a relationship, if our partners, their need is to be, you know, they want you to connect with them, but they're being a dick, right? You're like, your behavior's here, but this is your intent. Your intent is to survive, to love me, to keep me safe. Thank you. The way in which you're doing that isn't really working for me. But if we can stay with that voice long enough to drop to that layer underneath, that's where the value is what are you actually trying to say? Besides all this mean stuff, what's underneath that? And again, that's a process, right? That communication. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So being a bit kinder to yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Gary, looking suave in his suit profile picture there. Are you with us? Gary,
Yeah, I'm here.
Gary. There we go. Jerry, go for it.
What's my biggest takeaway?
Yes.
Yeah, just take the subconscious, what's going on subconsciously, all those negative thoughts, feelings when it's happening in the moment, to make a record of them and use it as a guide, which is pretty much what I have been sort of doing or trying to do, but anyway, in the understanding what those what those negative feelings are actually trying to tell me. You know, frustration isn't frustration. I haven't planned properly. It isn't what's it? I don't know. I'm not being stupid. I've just put too much on. Do you know what I mean? Over leveraged. It's just having those thoughts and just listening and reflecting on how to become better in the future and how to perceive that failure.
Fantastic. Yes, well done. Anybody else want to share before we close off today? Anybody have any questions? Go for it. Who was that?
Yeah, good.
Oh, we got some second chat. Anybody else would like to share? Takeaway, question, anything at all? I know, Sebastian, you came in a little bit later, but so are there any questions you want to ask or anything you want to understand about today's call?
No, that's great. I think I'll continue to pick up on Monday. Something that was really good. I like what you said, which is when you have like lofty goals, and then you're not understanding that you're not really looking at what you're doing day to day. You're focusing on the goal. Whereas if you focus on the process, then you'll find you've reached your goal. And I think that I think it's not just with the trading. It's with probably you could apply that to every aspect of your life. Yeah.
100%. So yeah, definitely pop in on Monday because we'll be talking all about that, and it's a nice long session. Well done, guys. Always such a pleasure. I love these calls, love connecting with all of you. And yeah, so look out for Monday's topic. So in the morning, I will share the theme of the week, which is fear and how we relate to that. So every month we'll be looking at different themes, and then we will deal with one emotion, specifically looking at kind of how that emotion shows up for us, what it feels like, how to start to recognize it, so that by the end of this year, we've really gotten well acquainted with all of these different themes, as well as the emotions, okay, our sort of core fundamental emotions. And then just a reminder, mindset shifter sessions, they are there, utilize them. It's kind of a first come, first serve basis. I have a couple of slots every week. Go and grab them. They are yours for the taking. So they're little 15 minutes. We get to just sort of zoom in and look at whatever's going on for you. I know it is a bit of a short time, but it just gives you a little bit of a penny drop. Please do go and book those. The link is in my profile. If you look at my profile, the link is there. And then we'll see you on Monday for the webinar. It will be a little bit of a different format. So our monthly webinars will be more sort of the first part, the first sort of 40 minutes or so will be more info, and you can sort of take notes. And then the last section will be Q&A and a little bit more like this. So yeah, well done for showing up for yourselves in this way today. Can't believe we're week 2 already, end of week 2, and wishing you all such a wonderful weekend. And Big T, your homework is to rest, my friend. Okay, a little bit of a nap, power nap, glass of water. You got it? Yes?
Been 2 weeks, the least sleep ever, you know.
Okay, we are taking a nap, a power nap. That's your only homework. That's your takeaway. Well done, guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Have a
day.
good weekend.
Thank you.
Yay. Bye, guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Yes.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
cheers. Bye.
Go to bed, Big T.
Yes. Nap time
Lunchtime.
for you. Bye, guys.